Story 1. Of a Dangerous Mind, Housekeeping. Housekeeping. That little voice came right through the door. Now, I could have sworn I hung that do not disturb sign on the knob last night, the minute I stumbled into this dump. But nope, there it sits, plain as day, on that cheap plastic table by the window. Weird. Real weird. Hello? Housekeeping. I heard the jingle of keys. This kind of cheap motel wouldn't know an electronic key card if it bit him on the rear, and I practically flew across the room, slapping my hand flat against the door like I could hold it shut by willpower alone. No thank you, I yelled back, and my voice sounded all high and squeaky, nothing like my normal tone. I'm fine. Towels. No thank you. Soaps or shampoo? She called again. No. I took a big gulp of air, trying to calm down. Thank you. I'm good. Okay. Have a good day. I pressed my ear against the thin wood, heard the squeaky wheel of her cart start moving again as she rolled off to bother someone else. Took her a while to move on. 'Cause far as I could tell, there was only me and maybe one other sucker staying in this whole place. At least, that's all the cars I saw in the lot when I rolled in around 2 in the morning. What time was it now? I shuffled over towards the bedside table, hunting for my phone. Then I stopped dead in my tracks. Stood up straight. I didn't have a phone. I chucked the damn thing out the window a few towns back. Hard to remember stuff like that. My head feels like it's stuffed with cotton wool most days. I coughed, hard, and shook my head, trying to clear the fog. Spotted one of those freebie binders full of local ads and junk sitting on that same crappy table by the window. I hurried over and grabbed it, flipping through the pages like a man possessed. Coffee, I muttered under my breath. Finally found a page advertising Mel's Diner, 3654, Highway 99. Hey, this motel was on Highway 99. I flipped some more pages, finned in what I hoped was a kinda sorta accurate town map. Yep, the motel was right there on 99, and the diner looked to be maybe a quarter mile down the road. Or it could be 25 miles, depending on how bad they screwed up the scale on this piece of crap map. An image slammed into my head, a gun. Clear as day. It startled me so bad I froze right there, had to take another deep breath. Wasn't just any gun. It was a fancy, tricked-out Sig Sauer P226 25 Malawian Quatches. Something I remembered from my. A sharp pain squeezed my skull, and I winced. Why the heck was I thinking about a gun? And what in the blue blazes was a Sig Sauer P226? I didn't own a gun. Never had owned a gun. Guns were a dang national health crisis. Why was this popping into my head? Finally spotted my shoes. Slipped them on, grabbed my wallet, and headed out. The housekeeping cart was gone. Guess the only other guest didn't want their room clean neither. No towels, no soap, no shampoo. As I walked past the front office, I glanced inside. Same clerk who checked me in last night was sitting there. Either he was pulling a double shift or just started his day. I gave him a little nod and a wave. He didn't nod back, didn't wave. Just stared at me with them dead fish eyes as I walked out of the parking lot and onto the highway side. Sure enough, not even a quarter mile down, the diner was right across the street. I jogged across quick, not that there was any danger cause there wasn't a single car in sight. Yanked open the diner's front door. You sit anywhere you like, hon, a woman hollered from the back. Be right with ya. I scooted straight to a corner booth and plopped down hard, making sure my back was against the wall so I could see the door. Dunno why I did that. Seemed kinda paranoid even to me. Mornin', hon, the waitress said as she approached. Tall woman, bottle blonde hair, and she had them deep creases around her bright red lips that only come from smoking a pack a day for 40 years. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Not one bit. Coffee, pancakes, 3 eggs scrambled with cheese, 4 slices of bacon. I rattled off, and coffee. You already said coffee, hon, she replied, scribbling it all down on a beat-up order pad. It's the most important part, I said, trying to flash her a friendly smile. She just nodded. It sure is. Be right back with the Joe. She turned and was gone in a flash. That's when I spotted him. The other customer, sitting at the counter. I hadn't noticed him when I came in, and I'd been watching the door like a hawk, so he couldn't have slipped in after me. Where'd he come from? He raised his coffee mug when he saw me staring. Then, slow as you please, he gets up from his stool and walks right towards me. That image of the gun blasted into my head again. So strong, I actually patted my pockets, feeling for it. May I sit, Mr. Lowe? The man asked. Excuse me. I was totally confused. Oh, right, he said, clearing his throat. May I sit, Mr. Naughton? Do I know you? I asked, feeling a cold trickle down my spine. That's a complicated question, he said. He didn't wait for an answer, just slid into the booth across from me. I'm just here for some breakfast, then heading on my way, I said, looking around the diner, desperately hoping the waitress would come back with my coffee. Hoping for anything to give me an excuse to get rid of this creep. You from around here? The stranger asked. No. Like I just said, I'm gonna be on my way after I eat. Where you coming from? Not here. I cleared my throat again, my mouth suddenly dry. I'm sorry, but who are you? My apologies, he said, and stuck his hand out across the table. Name's Terry Giles. Pleased to meet you, Mr. Naughton. How do you know my name? Heard you say it to the clerk last night. I blinked. The hotel clerk. I'm staying there too. Ah, I said, like the penny dropped. The other guest. Right. Yep, the other guest. He chuckled. Place ain't exactly hoppin', is it? I didn't see you in the lobby last night when I checked in. You didn't. He looked surprised. I was there, sitting in the corner. You really didn't see me? I shook my head. He nodded slowly. Well, I'll have to make a better impression this time. This time, alarm bells were ringing loud now. I'm sorry, Mr. Giles. Terry. Just Terry. Yes, well, I'm sorry, Terry. But I had a real restless night last night, and all I need right now is a hot cup of coffee. I ain't really looking to make friends or have a chat with a strange traveler. Chats with strange travelers are the spice of life, Mr. Naughton. He laughed, leaning back in his seat just as the waitress reappeared with my coffee. She plunked the cup down in front of me with one hand and offered the coffee pot to Terry with the other. Refill, Han. Don't mind if I do, he said, smiling right at me while she poured. Creepy. Your food'll be right out, Han, she said to me. Then she looked at Terry. You want me to bring it here, or will you be sitting back at the counter? Terry looked up at her, then looked over his shoulder at the counter, back to her, over to me, lifted his mug, blew on his coffee like it was scalding, set it down without taking a sip, and looked back up at her. I'll eat it here, thank you. The waitress just nodded, like this weirdo behavior was perfectly normal, and walked off. You a serial killer? I asked him point blank, reaching out to grab the sugar dispenser from the end of the table. Why do you ask that? He countered. I poured a little sugar into my coffee, stirred it, set the dispenser back, and snagged 2 little sealed cups of creamer from the basket they had mixed in with butter pats and jelly packets and honey. Ignored all that, just wanted the cream. You haven't answered my question, I said to Mr. Giles, as he watched me pour the cream in and stir. Are you a serial killer or something? Not the last time I checked, he replied and laughed. I stopped stirring and stared right at him. That ain't exactly a reassuring response, I said, pulling the spoon out and setting it on my napkin. I am not a serial killer, Mr. Giles said, rolling his eyes like I was the crazy one. I'm probably way worse. Is that so? I nodded slowly. Great, great. Just my luck. I find the one genuine nut job in the whole county, and all I want is to eat my breakfast in peace and hit the road. Who says I'm the only crazy asshole in the area? He chuckled and took a sip of his coffee. Takes one to know one. What's that supposed to mean? Here you go, Han. The waitress said, reappearing with Terry's breakfast, a Denver omelet and 2 biscuits. Anything else for you, Han? No. Thank you, Mr. Giles said, tucking his napkin into the collar of his t-shirt like a little kid. This looks perfect. He dug in like he was starving, and I just watched him, feeling sick. Is it good? I asked, trying to sound normal. Looks good. Hey, I got an idea. How about you eat up, then get the fuck away from me? How's that sound? Hold on, he said around a mouthful of biscuit. He chewed and chewed and chewed, swallowed hard, wiped his mouth with his napkin, making sure it stayed tucked in, took a sip of coffee, swished it around his mouth, swallowed again. Better, he declared. Then he leaned on his elbows and grinned right at me. When the waitress brings you your breakfast, you are going to shoot her between the eyes. My brain just stopped. I sat there blinking at him like an idiot. I'm sorry, what did you just say? I said. He repeated, slow and clear, that when the waitress comes back with your breakfast, you are going to shoot her between the eyes. His words echoed in my skull. All I could do was pick up my coffee cup and take 3 big gulps, set it down shaky, and look wildly around the diner. Nowhere to run. There's no way out, Mr. Giles, he said calmly. You put yourself back here without checking for a rear exit. He nodded towards the little hallway with the restroom sign. Nothing that way but the John. Only other way out besides the front door is through the kitchen. That was a mistake on your part. He chuckled and patted the table. But you did get yourself the corner seat with your back to the wall, so that conditioning helped some. What are you talking about? Are you fucking nuts? You can leave. Right now. Get the fuck up out of my booth and go, or I start shouting for someone to call the police. You're not going to do that, he said, utterly certain. I'm going to sit right here while you take this pistol and shoot the waitress between the eyes. What fucking pistol? His hand came up from under the table, sliding a gun across the vinyl towards me. A Sig Sauer P2 26-25 Malawian Quatches. My gut twisted. What the fuck? I yelled, recoiling like the thing was red hot. Now don't be like that, Mr. Naughton, he chided. You know this gun. It's your gun. You've held it 1 million times. Fired it 10 million times. You've killed with this gun before. Many, many times. So why so squeamish now? Not wanting to take a gun from a stranger ain't being squeamish. I shot back, standing up fast. You're fucking nuts. His eyes watched me, cold and calculating. Then he sighed and shook his head. Well, we tried, he said, and started to reach for the gun. My hand moved faster than my brain. I snatched the pistol up before his fingers got close. It felt right, natural. I racked the slide, chambering around, smooth as butter. Before I even knew what I was doing, the barrel was pressed hard into Terry Giles' right temple. Who the fuck are you? I growled, my voice low and dangerous. Muscle memory is intact, he said, but not to me. It was like he was talking to the air itself. Arm is steady. Stance is correct. What are you fucking jabbering about? Here's your food, hun, the waitress chirped, appearing beside the booth. Without a single thought, without any hesitation, I pivoted on my feet, smooth and fast, and leveled the pistol at her face. Well, shit, she said, just as I pulled the trigger. Bang! A red hole popped open right between her eyes. Her head snapped back, her whole body followed, and she slammed onto her back on the dirty linoleum. Plates loaded with my pancakes and eggs and bacon crashed down on top of her, shattering and splattering food everywhere. Time just stopped. The world froze. Everything went silent. Except for Terry Giles. He stood up and calmly took the pistol from my hand. Good job, Lo, he said. And just like that, a flash tore through my head. Me, wearing a Navy uniform. Sharp. Military. My name was Lo. Austin Lowe. But I was also Alex Naughton. Except, I wasn't Alex Naughton. What is happening? I stammered. Do you know who you are? Mr. Giles asked. Sergeant Austin Lowe, I heard myself say. Bravo team, sir. I'm not a sir, Mr. Giles, he corrected, but nodded. And yes, you are Lowe. Anyone else? Alex Naughton, I said, feeling utterly lost. Exactly. The trick is maintaining that condition and the trick. Don't worry about it. Now, Lowe, he glanced towards the door. Some men are coming through that front door in about 40 seconds. Do you think you can handle them? Yes, sir. Still not a sir, he sighed, patting me on the shoulder. Handle this, and you'll move on in the program, Lowe. You just got to take care of business. Take care of business, I echoed, nodding. Yes, sir. Son of a bitch. Not a sir, Mr. Giles muttered, then sat back down in the booth and picked up his coffee mug. 20 seconds. Can I have my weapon, sir? I asked, holding my hand out. No, he said, taking another sip. Sir, I would prefer if you gave me my weapon. I insisted, my hand staying out. And I'd prefer if you didn't call me sir, he replied calmly. I waited, tense, but he made no move to hand over the gun. The bell over the front door jingled. I whipped around. 4 huge guys walked into the diner. They had guns drawn and badges clipped to their belts. Alex Naughton, you are under arrest. On your knees. Hands behind your back. They were calling me the wrong name. Nothing made sense. On the fucking ground now, one of them roared. They weren't local cops. Leos popped into my head. They were dressed like federal agents. Black jeans, black t-shirts, black tactical vests, black windbreakers. Before they could shout again, I moved. I dove sideways into the empty booth next to me, scrambled up onto the table, and kicked wildly at the little basket holding jellies and butter and creamers. The packets flew through the air right at him. They reacted instantly, opening fire at where I had been. Too slow. I was already leaping to the next booth's table, then the next, and the next, until I was level with them. They were still shooting at empty space, not seeing me right beside him. That gave me just enough time to plant the tip of my left boot square into the left temple of the closest guy. His eyes rolled up, and he dropped like a sack of potatoes. I landed hard on my knees on the table, snatching his pistol from his slack hand. Before the other 3 could register they were down a man, I took aim and fired 3 fast shots. Each one hit its mark perfectly, right between the side seams of their tactical vests. They cried out, staggering. I was off the table before their bodies hit the floor, putting a final round into each forehead before they could even settle. Slow clap pins started up behind me. I spun around, gun up. That went about as well as we could have hoped, Mr. Giles, he said, walking towards me. His hands clap in that slow, sarcastic beat. Even confused about your identity, you still maintained your training and eliminated the threat. I kept the pistol aimed right at his chest. He didn't stop walking. This part, he sighed, is the part we still gotta work on. You always go for me afterward. I pulled the trigger. Or tried to. My finger wouldn't budge. I strained, pushing with everything I had, desperate to make my right index finger just squeeze a fraction of an inch. Nothing. It was locked solid. But I'm glad that the safety part of the conditioning is still working, he said, reaching me easily and taking the pistol from my useless hand. Well done, Lo. Well done indeed. He tucked the pistol into the back of his waistband. Then he shouted, loud and clear, "Exercise over. Reset." The men on the floor groaned and started getting up, wiping fake blood off their faces. So did the waitress. People streamed out from the back of the diner, guys in headsets, others with clipboards. Some started cleaning up the mess. Others were chattering in tech jargon I couldn't follow. "What the fuck?" I whispered, feeling the bottom drop out of my world. "You are almost ready for the field, Lo," Mr. Giles said, clapping me hard on the shoulder. "Couple more run-throughs as your alter ego, and the psychological conditioning should be solid." He took a deep breath, looking almost proud. "God bless this country, and God bless this Central Intelligence Agency." Then I felt a sharp prick in the side of my neck. The room started spinning. Everything went black. I woke up with a jolt. "Housekeeping." That same small voice called from the other side of the motel door. I sat bolt upright in that musty, dusty bed, looking around the crummy room. I thought I'd put the do not disturb sign on the knob, but I could see it, plain as day, sitting on that crappy plastic table by the front window. Weird. I could have sworn I hung it there last night, the second I got into the room. "Hello? Housekeeping?" "No, thank you," I shouted, my voice rough. Eased my feet over the side of the bed. Time to get this day going and find some damn coffee. Story 2. All the President's Lizard Men. Me and Bonnet? We go way back. Years. Got recruited into the Secret Service during the same president's time. President Prentice was sitting in the Oval Office back then. Not that we ever laid eyes on him, mind you. Nah, when you sign up for the Secret Service, they don't just hand you a spot guarding the President of the United States right off the bat. You gotta earn that. You gotta prove you got what it takes. And that's exactly what we did. Bonnet and me, we proved ourselves. Worked investigations into smuggling. Investigations into counterfeit money. Investigations into threats against politicians, including the president himself. Plus, looking into any number of poor civil servants that somebody, somewhere, decided they didn't like. And believe you me, there are plenty of someones out there who ain't fond of civil servants. We put in our time together, came up through the ranks together, side by side, which made shooting Bonnet 3 times in the chest the most painful damn thing I ever had to do. Watching the realization dawn in his eyes when he knew I wasn't lowering my gun, when he knew I was at the absolute end of my rope, when he knew my finger was squeezing that trigger, it near broke my heart. But I shot him anyway. I had to. When you realize your partner of 20 years, your friend, is actually a lizard man wearing a human suit, you put 2 in his chest and 1 between the eyes. Ain't nothing in the official manual about that. They sure as hell don't teach it at the academy. You won't find it in no Friday email memo. It's just what you gotta do when you see strips of flesh dangling off a man's face and underneath ain't muscle and sinew, but hard, shiny reptilian scales. 2 in the chest, 1 between the eyes. His blood was green. Bright, unnatural green. Not red. Which, to be honest, don't make a whole lot of sense when you think about it. Lizards. Real lizards, the kind that scurry under rocks. They got red blood. Iron-rich blood. Just like humans. Hell, just like pretty much all animals. For blood to be green, it'd need to be copper-rich. And nothing on Earth has copper-rich blood, except for some crabs and octopuses and such. Bonnet sure as hell wasn't no crab. I stared down at his still body, watching that weird green blood pool out on the concrete floor around him. Then I heard footsteps. Coming fast. Usually, I'd have a dozen voices barking orders in my ear through my earpiece. But Bonnet had ripped out my communications piece when I'd caught him down here in this sub-basement storeroom, doing whatever the hell he was doing. I tore my eyes away from him and looked past his body at what filled the room. Only one word for it. Eggs. Yeah, eggs. Had to be. Hundreds of them, covering the storeroom floor from wall to wall. And they sure as hell weren't chicken eggs. No way. These things were leathery looking, dark green with nasty brown and tin splotches. The shells were actually moving slightly, bulging as whatever was inside shifted around. Nope, these weren't no kind of bird eggs. These were reptile eggs. Pure and simple. Shouting echoed from outside the storeroom, down by the stairwell. I recognized Lohan's voice barking orders. Problem was, I didn't know if I could trust her anymore. She was the senior agent on the president's personal detail, so technically she was my boss, even though she was probably 10 years younger than me. Then I heard Reynolds shout something back at her, and Lohan barked back. Literally barked. The sound was guttural. Throaty. Wet. Like no language I'd ever heard. Nope. Couldn't trust Lohan. And apparently, couldn't trust Reynolds either. I checked the magazine in my Glock 19 pistol. 3 rounds in Bonnet, plus 2 I'd fired earlier and missed him with. Meant I should have 1 left in the chamber and 10 in the magazine. Felt about right. I slapped the magazine back in place and slowly pulled the slide back just enough to see the brass casing waiting in the chamber. Ready to roll. The weird barking got louder. I scanned the room, looking for cover, for anything. It was just a basic storage space, one of dozens under the West Wing. Besides the creepy lizard eggs, all I saw were shelves stacked high with paper products. Toilet paper rolls, stacks of napkins, paper towels in all different sizes, all highly flammable. Even though I'd told my wife, Jenna, that I quit smoking last year, which I had, mostly, though it didn't last long, I fished my crumpled pack of Marlboros out of my jacket pocket. Tucked between the cellophane and the pack was a cheap disposable lighter. I flicked the bic, got a flame, and touched it to a shelf piled high with paper towels. Whoosh! The whole thing went up like a torch in seconds. Thick smoke started billowing immediately. I grabbed Bonnet's body by the ankles and dragged him over to the left side of the doorway, so he'd be the first thing anyone saw coming in. The guttural barking outside shifted pitch, going from angry to alarmed. Lohan shouted something. It sounded like maybe Bonnet's name in that messed up language, or maybe just the word for fire. Either worked for me, cause the result was Lohan bursting into the smoke-filled storeroom and heading straight for Bonnet lying there among the eggs. I eased out from behind the door, raising my Glock. She must have sensed me, cause her whole body stiffened just as I squeezed the trigger. I managed to hit her in the right shoulder, but it wasn't the clean headshot I was aiming for. The door slammed all the way open as Reynolds charged straight at me, his arms outstretched, the tips of his fingers ending in razor-sharp talons. I stumbled backwards, lost my balance and started to fall. When he reached me and grabbed my suit coat collar, yanking me close. He shouted right in my face, spraying spit, that horrible barking sound. Then he lost that human face as I jammed my Glock up under his chin and squeezed off 2 rounds point blank. Bang! Bang! His head exploded into green pulp. I shoved the twitching body aside and swung my gun towards where Lohan had been. But she was gone, vanished into the thickening smoke. My lungs were burning. I dropped to my knees and crawled low towards the doorway. Poked my head out quick once, twice, then scrambled out into the corridor. No sign of Lohan. Behind me, the heat was getting intense. I heard a series of sharp pops and high-pitched screeching as the eggs started bursting open. Screw those baby lizards. I scrambled to my feet and ran down the corridor, heading northeast towards a service exit I knew would get me out from under the White House fast. But as I whipped around a corner, Lohan was waiting, a step ahead of me. "Stop right there, Baldwin," Lohan shouted, her own Glock up and trained right on me. "It ends here." "What does?" I shouted back, my Glock hinging down by my thigh. If I twitched, she'd put 3 in me just like I did to Bonnet. "What the hell is happening, Lohan? Who are you people? What are you?" "We have always been," she hissed, her voice sounded strange. "When we crawled out from the center of the earth, we saw that humanity had spread like a virus while our kind, the original people of this planet, had been sleeping. So you're gonna kill us all? Is that the plan?" "That," she smirked. "You speak in past tense, Baldwin. The plan has already happened. We have taken over the governments of every major nation. We have been ruling for decades, and everything we set in motion has come to fruition. Humans are butchering each other by the tens of thousands. The environment is being destroyed. The planet's temperature is rising and rising, getting closer to our ideal surface temperature. That is the plan, Baldwin, and it's working." "Fuck you," someone roared from behind me. The gunshot right next to my left ear was deafening. Lohan looked at me, frowning. Then her eyes drifted past me, her lips curled back in a snarl, just as green blood started dripping down from her hairline. Right before she collapsed to the floor, her tongue, long, thin, and forked, darted out and licked some of the blood away. "Definitely not human." "You good, Baldwin?" a man shouted. I turned, dazed, and stared. It was Takir, a rookie agent I'd only met a few months back. I brought my Glock up faster than I thought possible and pressed it hard right between his eyes. "Whoa, whoa, whoa," he yelled, freezing. "I just saved your ass. Cut your arm." I yelled back, my voice shaken. "Show me the red blood." He started to argue, then glanced at Lohan's corpse and seemed to understand. Slowly, carefully, he pulled a small knife from his belt and flipped it open. Then, even slower, he shoved his suit coat sleeve up, showing the white of his shirt sleeve underneath. He met my eyes, waiting. I nodded, keeping the gun steady. He unbuttoned the shirt cuff, shoved the sleeve up his forearm, then made a quick, shallow slice into his skin. Bright red blood welled up immediately. "Thank God," I breathed, lowering the Glock. "I thought you might be one of them." "Seriously?" Takir said, already pressed in his shirt sleeve against the cut. "I just shot Lohan." "Fair enough," I conceded. "Thanks." We both stared down at Lohan's corpse for a beat. The smoke from the storeroom was starting to drift down the hall. "We are talking about lizard people, right?" Takir asked, his voice hushed. I just nodded grimly. "Fuck." He exhaled a long, shaky breath. "We need to get out of here." I pointed towards the heavy, unmarked door on the other side of Lohan's body. "This'll take us out into the bushes by the east parking lot." Shouts echoed from far off down the corridor, getting closer. "We need to hurry." He nodded. We skirted around Lohan's body. I punched my personal code into the keypad by the door. A green light flashed, a heavy clunk sounded, and the door popped open, revealing a narrow, spiral staircase leading up into darkness. "How many floors?" Takir asked, peering up. 23. I said, already starting to climb. By the time we reached the top, lungs burning, the shouts from below were echoing up the metal stairs. "Move your ass," I hissed at Takir, shoving him out the door and into a thick tangle of cedar branches, holly bushes, and prickly azaleas. We fought our way through the scratchy foliage, emerging onto sun-baked asphalt. Row after row of identical black suburban SUVs stretched out before us, off-airing a whole fleet of potential escape vehicles. Except we couldn't use any of them. They could be tracked instantly and disabled remotely. We'd be sitting ducks. "This way," I said, leading him along the edge of the massive parking lot, staying low behind the vehicles. We followed a high chain-link fence until we reached a guarded pedestrian gate. And 2 United States Marines. Agent Baldwin, one of the guards, Eggers, asked, looking confused. Then he looked at Takir, and his confusion turned to worry. "Something going on?" I opened my mouth to answer when the other Marine turned his M4 rifle on Eggers and fired point-blank into the side of his head. Bang! Blood, bone, and teeth showered over me and Takir. I must be getting old, 'cause my reaction time felt like molasses. The traitor Marine was already swinging his rifle towards me before I could even think of raising my Glock. Bang! 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 3 shots rang out. The Marine looked down at his chest where the bullets hit his Kevlar vest. He grinned at us, showing too many teeth. Then he frowned, coughed. Bright green blood sprayed from his lips, then poured from a wound on his neck. Takir pushed past me and put a single round right between the Marine's eyes. He dropped like a stone. "Where's your car?" Takir asked, already moving. "Is it this way?" "Yeah," I said, shaking off the shock and talking the lead again. But we gotta wind through 2 more lots. We moved fast, staying low, darts in from vehicle to vehicle. When we finally reached my usual parking section, my heart sank. It was swarming with agents, some I recognized, others I didn't. All looking tense, hands near their weapons. "Now what?" Takir whispered, crouched behind a bulky SUV. "Where's your car?" I asked. "The next lot over. But they're probably watching it too. Not if they don't know you're involved. They know about me cause of Lohan, but you killed her before she could report. Is it worth a shot?" "Worth a shot." We stayed low, hustling around the edge of the parking lot, moving from the cover of one SUV to the next. When we reached the adjacent lot, Takir sighed with relief. "We're good," he said, crouch running between the cars to a fairly new-looking Subaru sedan. Smart kid. He didn't use the key fob, no telltale beep. He slid the physical key into the door lock and turned it. All the doors unlocked with a quiet thunk. We slipped inside, keeping our heads down. "Ready?" Takir asked, key in the ignition. I nodded, my hand on the door handle. "Go." He started the engine, threw it into gear, and gunned it, whipping us through the rows of employee cars until we reached the guarded exit gate. A single Marine stood watch. He glanced at us, then stood up straighter and walked towards the driver's side as we slowed. Takir looked at me, panicked. "Play it cool," I mouthed. "Roll down the window." Takir cranked the window down. "Early day?" the Marine asked, leaning down slightly. "Heading to Treasury?" I said, leaning across Takir so I could make eye contact. Takir had the barrel of his Glock pointed low at his door, finger tense on the trigger. "Treasury?" the Marine asked, then nodded like he got it. "Oh right. I can never keep straight what you guys do." "We keep America safe," I said, flashing my best professional smile. "Just like you." "Roger that," he said, then tapped the roof of the Subaru twice. "You two have a good day. Stay safe." "Same to you," I replied. We watched, holding our breath, as he walked back to the gatehouse and lifted the heavy crossbar block in the way out. That bar was mostly for show. If an unauthorized vehicle tried to get through, hidden guns would turn it into Swiss cheese. I gave the Marine a quick wave as we drove through the gate. Then we were out, merging into the thick afternoon traffic of Washington, D.C. We were miles away, driving over the Potomac River, before either of us dared to speak. "Now what?" Takir asked, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "You're married, right?" I replied. "Yeah." "Lisa, call your wife. Tell her to pack only the essentials, clothes, cash, any important papers. Tell her to be ready to leave in 10 minutes. I'll call mine too. We gotta get out of the city. Now." He didn't argue, just nodded and pulled his phone out of his jacket pocket. I realized my stupidity instantly. "Wait." I snatched the phone from his hand, rolled down my window, and tossed it out onto the highway shoulder. Did the same thing with my own phone. Trackers, I explained. There's a liquor store up ahead. I pointed to a street coming up on the right. Turn here. To Takir's credit, he didn't get mad about losing his phone or argue about stopping. We pulled into the mostly empty lot. I pointed at the old payphone booth near the entrance. I'm going to use that to call my wife, I said, jumping out. I went inside, bought a cheap lighter just to break a 20, got a handful of quarters, and fed them into the payphone. My wife, Jenna, answered on the first ring. Hello. Jenna, it's me. I can't explain, but I need you to grab the go bags from the back of the hall closet and meet me in front of the house in 10 minutes. Don't pack anything else. Just the bags and your purse. Sounds bad, she said, her voice instantly tense. How bad is it? Worse than anything you can imagine, honey. Just trust me. 10 minutes. Okay, she said, no hesitation. I'll be ready. We hung up. I motioned for Takir. He hopped out and used the last of my quarters to call his wife while I scanned the area from inside the car. The street was quiet, eerily so. When Takir got back in, he said, My wife will meet us at your house. We only live a few blocks from each other, remember? We do. I asked. My mind racing. Takir pulled the Subaru onto my quiet suburban street. Sunlight filtered through old oaks, painting dappled shadows on manicured lawns. My blue house with white trim stood there like a damn postcard. Jenna waited on the porch, 2 loaded backpacks at her feet. My heart squeezed seeing her, my anchor in this madness. She trusted me. She was ready. Right here. I pointed to the driveway. Takir eased in. Jenna's eyes met mine through the windshield. Worried but steady. Then her gaze flicked to Takir. Confusion wrinkled her brow. I was out before the car stopped. Jenna, we gotta move now. Where are the bags? I hit the porch steps. Jenna? Come on, honey. Misha? Takir's voice cut through behind me, tight with alarm. I glanced back. Takir's wife, Lisa, was walking up the driveway towards him. A sleek black pistol hung loose in her right hand. Cold dread washed over me. I slowly turned back to Jenna. Her expression had shifted. The worry was gone, replaced by a deep, terrible sadness. There's a reason we never had children, John, she said softly, lifting her own pistol. Not quite aiming, just holding it. Ready. I stared, really seeing her for the first time. The curve of her mouth I'd kissed 1,000 mornings. The laugh lines around eyes that now held no warmth. It all looked staged. I don't understand. I choked out, my hand instinctively drifting towards my holster. Empty. My Glock was still tucked away. What is this? Jenna? Talk to me. Survival of the fittest, she said, her voice flat. Alien. My father warned me not to marry a human. Said it'd only bring heartache. She gave me that smile, the one that used to light my whole world. Now it looked like a predator baring its teeth. But here we are. Behind me, 3 sharp pops shattered the suburban quiet. Silenced pistol. I didn't need to turn. I heard the heavy thud of Takir hitting the driveway. Lisa hadn't hesitated. John. Jenna's voice held that awful, familiar pity. It didn't have to be this way. You could have been useful. For a while longer. The pieces slammed together. Her calm during every crisis. Her uncanny ability to soothe my fears about the world falling apart. Her father's vague, reclusive, diplomatic background. It wasn't camouflage. It was infiltration. You all along. My voice cracked. Everything. Us. Everything serves the hive, John, she said, the pistol rising smoothly now, centering on my chest. Even love. Especially love. It makes the camouflage perfect. That sad, beautiful smile again. Goodbye, John. The sound of the shot wasn't loud. Just a sharp crack. I felt the punch high on my left chest more than I heard it. A hot, spreading numbness. The world tilted violently. I saw the azaleas Jenna planted last spring. Saw the impossible blue of the sky. Saw her face, already turning away, the pistol lowering, no remorse, just efficiency. Cold reptilian efficiency. Thump. My back hit the driveway pavement. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't feel my legs. The numbness spread fast. Jenna's footsteps clicked on the pavement, fading towards Lisa. Hissing, guttural words passed between them. Not English. Not human. I stared up at the sky, the blue starting to blur at the edges. Survival of the fittest. Lizard people. Running the world. Making it hotter. Watching us tear ourselves apart. All true. And Jenna, my Jenna, she was one of them. Always had been. The pain in my chest was nothing compared to the ice-cold shattering in my soul. She never loved me. It was all part of the plan. Just like Baldwin was part of the plan. A tiny, insignificant flicker in the grand scheme of a dying species ruled by monsters wearing human skin. The blue sky faded to gray. Then to black, swallowing the edges of my vision. The last sound wasn't sirens, wasn't shouts. It was the smooth purr of the Subaru's engine starting up again. Driving away. Surviving. God bless the damn lizard people. Story 3. A Jab of Unreality. Man, that needle looked like something you'd use on a prize stallion, not a guy with a throbbing big toe. Huge, thick, and shiny, catching the flicker of those cheap clinic lights. I watched that tired-looking nurse march towards me with it, holding it like she was fixin' to stab a vampire. A nasty little green drop bubbled right on the tip. "I don't want this," I said, trying to shove my plastic chair back. Felt like I was glued to the floor. "Seriously, I just came in for my dang toe." "You don't got a choice, sugar," the nurse snapped, planting herself in front of me. She looked wrung out, hair flying, dark circles like bruises under her eyes. Couldn't tell if she was 30 or 50. Life had been that rough lately. "Either you get this vaccine jabbed in you right now, or you get yourself a cozy 6-month vacation in one of our monitoring quarantine wards. Take your pick." She jerked her head towards the piles of sheet-covered lumps stacked against the far wall like firewood. "No more room in the morgue, I guess. Tell them about your precious constitutional rights." I couldn't look at the bodies. Made my stomach do flip-flops. Stared at the needle, then back up at her worn-out face. "Do I actually have a choice here? Like a real, honest-to-God one?" "Course you do, honey," she said, her voice getting tight and mean. "You can be a damn problem child. I call security, they sit on you, and we do this the hard, messy way. Or you can be a decent human being who gives half a damn about his fellow man and takes this godforsaken shot like a grown-up." Her voice rose, cutting through the cuffing and moaning in the packed room. Heads turned. "You planning on being a problem?" I squirmed in the chair. My stupid left foot felt like it was about to explode. "That's why I came. An ingrown toenail, not the floating death plague. Look, I want to help folks. I do." I started, trying to sound reasonable. "But why the strong-arm stuff? My buddy Frank, he says this vaccine's got." "I do not give two flying farts in a hurricane what your buddy Frank says," she yelled, waving the syringe. "Spittle flu. Unless your buddy Frank is some fancy-pants epidemiologist doctor who's been wiping snot and holding hands while people choke to death for the last 6 weeks straight, he can shut his trap. What does this Frank fella do? Sell insurance? Flip burgers? He works at Best Buy." I mumbled, feeling my cheeks burn. "Best Buy?" She barked out a harsh laugh. "Right? So unless he's telling you how to hook up your new Blu-ray player without blowing a fuse, he can keep his trap shut." Now, she shoved the needle closer. My arm already hurt just looking at it. Easy way or hard way? Before I could say another word, 2 huge arms like steel bands locked around me from behind. Security. Big guy. Smelled like cheap aftershave and stale sweat. "Let me go," I yelled, bucking like a wild horse. "You sons of..." I tried to catch someone's eye. Anybody who might care, but everyone looked scared, tired, or half dead already. The nurse didn't blink. Jabbed that needle deep into my upper arm. Felt like a red-hot nail. She slammed the plunger down. Yanked it out. "All done, you big baby," she sneered, tossing the used syringe into a scary-looking yellow bin marked biohazard, like tossing out trash. She turned and walked off like I'd vanished into thin air. "Sorry about that, man," rumbled a deep voice behind me. I craned my neck. The security guard who'd held me was a mountain. 6.5 feet easy, built like a brick outhouse. Gotta be 300 pounds. Orders. Nothing personal. Wasn't cool, I said, standing up shaky. My arm burned where she'd stuck me. Then a lightning bolt of pain shot up from my foot. Ow. Dang it all. Nobody even looked at my toe. "Ain't got time for toes, brother," the big man said, shaking his head. He reached into his pants pocket, pulled out a crumpled slip of paper, and pressed it into my hand. "People are dropping like flies out here. That ain't just talk." His voice dropped to a low, urgent whisper. "Be at this address tonight. 8 o'clock. Sharp. Don't be late. It don't have to be like this." Then he just melted back into the crowd near the reception desk, leaving me standing there holding the paper, my arm throbbing, my foot screaming, and my head spinning like a top. I looked down at the scribbled address. Knew it. The old roller-rama, out on the abandoned highway stretch. Closed down years before this float death crap even started. Perfect. Just perfect. My foot hurt so bad I could barely think straight. "My foot still hurts," I said to the lady cuffing her lungs out next to me. She ignored me. Said it to the guy passed out in a chair. Ignored. Said it to a nurse rushing past with a clipboard. Ignored. Felt like screaming. Another nurse, younger but looking just as mean, jabbed a finger at me. "We need this seat. Get the hell out, or I call security back." Stumbling, limping, trying not to put weight on my stupid left foot, I fought my way through the packed waiting room and shoved out the clinic doors into pure bedlam. The parking lot was a war zone. Cars parked sideways, blocking others in. The street outside was jammed solid, Horns blaring, people yelling, and Chauvin. And this was just a little urgent care joint. The real hospitals? Couldn't even picture it. The float death. Called that because they said the virus hung in the air for days, like invisible poison. News said over 6 million dead just here in the United States. Rest of the world? Worse. Much worse. I shuffled towards the bike rack where I'd locked up my old 10-speed. Gone. Just gone. I blinked. Maybe the wrong rack. I looked around. Nope. This was it. Then I saw it. My heavy-duty bike lock, cut clean in half, laying on the asphalt. Son of a bitch, I muttered. Stole my ride. Perfect. Just freaking perfect. Limp in like a three-legged dog, I started the long walk home, trying to hug the edge of the parking lot chaos. But the chaos was everywhere. People yelling, cars bumping into each other, cops wrestling drivers onto hoods, nurses running, trying to help people who'd collapsed getting out of cars. I ducked my head, tucked my chin, tried to make myself invisible. Wished the world would just go back to normal. A car horn blasted right in my ear. Move it, moron! The driver screamed, leaning out his window, face purple with rage. I looked around, dazed. I was standing on a stupid little strip of grass between the sidewalk and the parking lot. What? I asked, confused. The driver slammed his car into gear, twisted the wheel hard, and gunned it. Straight towards me. I scrambled sideways, fouling onto the dirty sidewalk as his car jumped the curb, tore over the grass, and smashed into the back bumper of an old Honda Civic parked nearby. Police swarmed the car like ants. Shaken, I picked myself up, my foot screaming bloody murder. Gunfire suddenly erupted back near the clinic entrance. Sharp, scary cracks. That was it. I shoved my hands deep in my pockets, tucked my chin down again, and limped as fast as my stupid, painful foot would carry me away from the nightmare. Just get home. Get home. Get some ice on this toe, and figure out what the heck that big security guard meant. And what was on that slip of paper burning a hole in my pocket.